Beijing is now in India's nuclear missile range, according to a report published in the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists in the United States of America. So India's nuclear strategy, according to this report, is now increasingly shifting focus. It's focusing now on China and not as much on Pakistan, with longer range missiles, aircraft and submarines. The aim is to checkmate China, and India is now systematically shifting focus from its nuclear arsenal being Pakistan-centric to its arsenal now being China-centric. The report of the Faculty of American Scientists says India's nuclear triad is complete. It's getting more teeth, perhaps with the Rafales also coming in. I'm Gaurav Sawant. We will get you more about this. We'll also tell you what's happening at the line of actual control and India's response mechanism. But as always, let's get started. Our top focus story on the broadcast is a US study that indicates that the focus of India's nuclear strategy is now shifting to China from Pakistan. This report, published in the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, says that India's nuclear modernization program indicates that we are increasingly putting more emphasis on mechanism to counter China. Future strategic relationship with China, with longer range missiles like Agni 5, with fighters like Rafale, Mirage and Jaguar, deep penetration strike aircraft and submarine launched ballistic missiles like the K4 with a range of 3,500 kilometers. Ankit Kumar gets you our top story tonight. Beijing is now in India's nuclear missile range, says a report in the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, talking of a change in India's nuclear strategy. The report accessed by India Today says the focus of India's nuclear strategy has now shifted to checkmating China from countering Pakistan. The report, authored by Hans Christensen and Matt Korda, says India's nuclear strategy, which was traditionally focused on Pakistan, now appears to place increased emphasis on China, and Beijing is now in the range of Indian missiles.
India's nuclear strategy from the beginning has been primarily focused on China, not Pakistan. In 1998, in a letter to the White House, India justified its nuclear weapon tests in the name of securing a deterrent capability against China.
India's nuclear triad was accomplished after the announcement of completion of the first deterrence patrol of the indigenous nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine INS Arihant.
आप लोगों ने देश को इस दीपावली पर अरिहंत के सफल अभियान के रूप में एक ऐसा अनूठा अनुपम उपहार दिया है जो भारत के इतिहास में बेमिसाल है.
The report talks of additional systems under development to achieve India's 8-leg nuclear triad, including 2 aircraft systems, 4 land-based ballistic missile systems, and 2 sea-based nuclear-capable ballistic missiles. As far as the triad is concerned, Rafale fighters are set to join the Jaguar deep penetration strike aircraft and the upgraded Mirage 2000 fighters. On the land front, India has completed the pre-induction flight test of Agni 5 with a range of 5,000 kilometers. The development of the intercontinental ballistic missile Agni 6 is underway. The third leg of the triad, with submarine-launched ballistic missile K4, is ready. With a range of 3,500 kilometers, the K4 can target all of Pakistan and most of China. India is now working on a 5,000 kilometer range version of the same missile. The country's focus remains to checkmate China.
The paper in Bulletin of Atomic Scientists suggests that India's nuclear strategy started shifting from Pakistan towards China right after the Doklam standoff. While Beijing is already under India's nuclear range, experts believe that in next 10 years, India's nuclear systems will see a significant China-specific improvements. In New Delhi, this is Ankit Kumar for India Today.
And joining me for more on the report is its author Hans Christensen, Director, Nuclear Information Project, Federation of American Scientists. Professor Christensen, many thanks for joining me. What are the indicators that India's nuclear missile strategy is now China-oriented?
I'm not saying it's entirely China-oriented. It still has Pakistan in the crosshairs, but we've seen over several years this shift to longer-range land-based missiles, and obviously that has a clear indication that it is China that they're trying to cover now with this current generation, the next generation of missiles.
And has India been able to achieve the deterrence India seeks with the Triad? In your study, did you find that?
It depends what the goal is. Unfortunately, sufficiency is quite elusive sometime in nuclear planning. It's hard to say when something is enough. But India is trying, and so India is extending both the range of its missiles, but also the diversity of them. And it's trying to add a ballistic missile submarine leg to it. It's not quite mature yet. So, maybe in a decade or so, you will see a system that is able to cover China as well. So, small steps, but it's a work in progress.
Okay. Are you seeing a shift in India's no first use policy, especially with statements from late Manohar Parrikar, then Defence Minister, also the current Defence Minister Rajnath Singh?
Yeah, there are indications that at least people high up in the system are entertaining the thought that adjustments might be ready. But I also hear that, as soon as they say that, people within the military are sort of less enthusiastic about going that way. The reason being that if you change the no first use policy, you presumably have to change the strategy for how weapons should be used, and that might even translate into changing capabilities of weapons. So one has to be a little careful not to sort of just adopt or modify the policy without having thought through clearly what the implications are, both for strategy and for weapons requirements.
It's not just India, but democracies across the world that are coming together to counter and checkmate China. Such are China's actions. The United States has not only told China to shut down its consulate at Houston, but the Federal Bureau of Investigation has also hit out at the Chinese consulate at San Francisco for allegedly shielding an accused. India Today now gets you satellite imagery to tell you more about China's nefarious activities at the consulates in the United States of America. Satellite images of multiple suspicious Chinese activities at Chinese consulates at Houston and San Francisco. India Today accessed satellite images of the consulate that indicate multiple suspicious activities. One of the satellite images displays a pickup truck with open cargo area standing at the rear entrance of the building. The road has been blocked by two cars parked in tandem in front of the pickup truck, blocking the entry from the north.
The students who are coming from China to study in the US or other countries are also involved in this particular spying things. They are from graduate to doctorate levels. Both the consulates in San Francisco as well as Houston are involved in spying activities. This is very clearly revealed from the satellite images.
Satellite imagery indicates suspicious activities even at the Chinese consulate at San Francisco. Satellite pictures have captured not only suspicious-looking antennae at the building, but also other monitoring equipment.
There's been this long challenge of the Chinese Communist Party stealing intellectual property. We actually talked about this. It's not just American intellectual property but stolen. It's been European intellectual property too, costing hundreds of thousands of jobs good jobs for hardworking people all across Europe and America stolen by the Chinese Communist Party?
It has been long discussed and asserted that the office here in Houston was engaged in inappropriate forms of information gathering and influence operations. It's not necessarily surprising. One would expect foreign governments to be very aggressive in collecting information that would be helpful to their own national interests.
The US has taken a string of steps to counter Chinese spying. In fact, 2 Republican senators have introduced a bill to ban federal employees in the US from using TikTok app on government-issued mobile phones. Several federal government offices, including the State Department and the Department of Homeland Security, have forbidden their employees from using TikTok. According to US intelligence, TikTok poses a major security risk to the US. The US has already banned both Huawei and ZTE telecommunication equipment and is considering a sweeping travel ban on Chinese Communist Party members and their kin. Bureau Report, India Today. Big story coming in. India has said we cannot have business as usual with China till the time there's total disengagement and China pulls out of the areas it is in at the line of actual control. India seeks to resolve issues through dialogue, but we've made it very clear we will not do business with China as usual until there is complete disengagement of military forces along the line of actual control and de-escalation at the border in accordance with bilateral agreements and protocols. According to India's ambassador to Russia, Venkatesh Verma, I quickly want to cut across to India Today's Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan, joining us with this big story for more. Geeta, bring us details. That's a huge statement that comes from India, Geeta, where India is saying we cannot have business as usual with China, Geeta. Give me a moment as we establish this link with Geeta Mohan. Rahul Srivastava, our National Affairs Editor, joins me on the broadcast. Rahul, that's a big story coming in. No business as usual with China till the time China goes back. Also that big story, government tightens rules against Chinese business interests in India. Restrictions on bidders from countries that share a border with India. Rahul, give us details.
Gaurav, in a very important strike against an economic strike against Chinese business interests in India, the government has announced restrictions on bidders from countries which share a border, a land border with India. Now, there are restrictions with Pakistan already in place, and Bangladesh and Nepal and others are not big bidders into Indian business interests. It is largely the Chinese. Now, what the government has said, that political and security clearance from the Ministries of External Affairs and Home Affairs will be mandatory for bids from China in public procurement of goods, services and turnkey projects. Now, Gaurav, what it means is that in case the government of India, the Ministry of Defence or Ministry of External Affairs, has any issues vis-a-vis the defence of India, matters directly, indirectly related to national security, bidding can be stopped from China. What it also means that in all kinds of projects, one, procurement of goods, public procurement that is, service including consultancy services, non-consultancy services, and works including turnkey projects, means large turnkey projects, China will not be able to bid in them till the ministries in the government clear that. That means Chinese will be facing yet another huge filter when it comes to direct or easy access into Indian businesses and infrastructure projects.
Oh, absolutely. And Geeta Mohan also joins me on the broadcast. Rahul, stay with me. Geeta, the signal is very clear as India's ambassador to Russia put it. It cannot be business as usual with China as long as the tension prevails at the line of actual control. So, Geeta, break this down for us. How does this translate into action on ground when government says it cannot be business as usual with China?
Well, a few very specific examples that the ambassador himself has given. He spoke of the fact that one, in no uncertain words, Gaurav, coming from an Indian diplomat posted in Moscow, saying that there can be it can't be business as usual with China if complete disengagement does not take place at the border. Having said that, he also goes on to speak about the apps that have been banned and the fact that there are going to be certain economic sanctions, which Rahul Srivastava just now broke. The concepts are very clear when it comes to how India is going to deal with China or with any country that has not been working in tandem with the interests that India has been expressing. And in that, there are going to be economic measures that are going to be taken, which the ambassador also speaks of and explains why is it important for India to secure its own national interests on the economic front vis-a-vis China at a time when Chinese aggression continues to grow, not just at the border with India, but across the globe.
Oh, absolutely. But Rahul, in terms of tangible steps, banning 59 apps, banning Huawei and ZTE from 4G upgradation, those were signals being sent out. But does the government plan to escalate it? Like the United States announced no China in 5G. Is that going to be the next step as far as government of India is concerned, no China in 5G?
Gaurav, I think the Indian leadership is showing greater sagacity compared to a rather more aggressive President Trump, who is heading towards election. The Indian government and Indian defense forces are on the negotiation table with China as far as the border standoff is concerned. And that's where I think the level of caution comes in, that India is using a step-by-step approach, that you don't do this, we will hurt you here. If you don't do that, we will hurt you there. And that is why the Huawei element, as far as the 5G unrolling is concerned, Gaurav, that's a huge business. It is estimated that by 2035, after rollout, 5G will have $1 trillion worth of economic impact in India. And anybody will like to be part of that exercise in a country where 45 crore mobile phones are in use, 50 crore people are on the internet. And by delaying the process, India is keeping its cards close to the chest, and it is going to the negotiation table. I think India is using the 5G issue, Huawei presence in it, more as a leveraging element. That's one more thing pending. If you don't give in to the standard and withdraw from the points where we are telling you, there can be more action. So I think it's a more phase-by-phase move, step-by-step arrangement being worked out by India to push back China as far as the territories of India are concerned.
Okay. But somewhere, Geeta, the message should also be to China that it's going back on its word. It commits to one thing in border talks at the level of either the NSA and Wang Yi or at the level of the two co-commanders. Action on ground is very different, and especially at the north bank of Pengong Tso at finger 4 and finger 5. By now, China should have been at finger 8 if it was serious about disengagement, de-escalation, and ultimate de-induction.
Well, that's right, Gaurav, but when have we seen China really walk the talk in the manner in which we've seen China behave in the recent past? We know that there is the WNCC meeting that is to take place tomorrow, and ahead of that meeting, the Ministry of External Affairs in a statement today reminded China of the 1993 agreement. There have been 5 agreements since the 1993 agreement, and China stands in violation of all those agreements, particularly the strongest one was that of 1993, and they have not adhered to that agreement. So India reminding China that they need to go back to the agreements that have been signed between the two countries, agreed upon between the two countries, and respect the line of actual control. Unless that happens, we will continue to see the kind of measures that our Indian government has been taking, and the kind of statements that are coming from Indian side is not something that India is going to go back on very easily, Gaurav, this time around, because we have seen how China has been provoking India, whether it is the Doklam in the Tri-junction with Bhutan, or for that matter, the incidents in Pangong in the past, and Arunachal Pradesh as well. So we have seen the kind of provocations, and China only using this crisis of coronavirus as an opportunity, which exposes China and Chinese expansionist programs in the entire region and across the world. So
absolutely.
Not going to step down anytime soon. There is,
and perhaps that is why.
On Beijing.
And India needs to be a part of this world community that's mounting that pressure. But remember, everyone's only looking after their own interests, and India must ensure that we mount enough pressure on China to go back. And this needs to be a multi-pronged strategy. Geeta and Rahul Srivastava, for the moment, many thanks for joining me. Prime Minister Narendra Modi too spoke of peace from a position of strength. Perhaps that's one reason why the ITBP, the Indo-Tibetan Border Police, which has the mandate to guard the line of actual control, is now honing its combat skills, especially the way China appears to be fighting at the LAC. Now, these soldiers of the Indo-Tibetan Border Police are undergoing rigorous training at their academy at Mussoorie, learning martial arts, unarmed combat. This may come handy in the hand-to-hand combat like we saw between soldiers of the 16th Battalion of the Bihar Regiment and the Chinese soldiers. So take a look at this special report by India Today's Jitendra Bahadur Singh about the training that the ITBP is undergoing, including learning the Chinese Mandarin language.
Hands-on defense. Japanese martial arts. Weapons of the body. This when traditional firearms are not in use. The ITBP's ground pounders in action. Elbow striking. Throat punching, stomping to the ground. If the Chinese want to fight dirty with clubs again, as they did in the Galwan Valley last month, India is willing to oblige. In the mountains of Uttarakhand, the ITBP in full body protection is training to cripple the enemy, stopping them dead in their tracks. If they do again what they did in Galwan, using batons wrapped in barbed wire, the ITBP's close combat training at its Mussoorie Academy is death-defying.
This institutes train karate for the whole force and rest of the paramilitary forces and police organizations. We have in-house 4,000 plus karatekas. Those who go out from here well trained, it helps boost morale of individual, morale of the force.
The 90,000 strong Indo-Tibetan Border Police is India's first line of defense. Along the entire stretch of India-China border, running into 3,500 kilometers. Guarding the frontier from Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh, Sikkim to Arunachal Pradesh. The force is also training its border patrols in soft skills. This is a special class in Mandarin for the ITBP personnel. The guards soak in the Chinese language in intense coaching sessions.
देखिए भाषा तो एक सहायक होती है. जब आपने किसी दूसरे ओपोनेंट की भाषा का थोड़ा ज्ञान प्राप्त किया है, तो उनके जेस्चर, उनकी बातें समझने और उनको अपनी बात कहने के लिए आप सक्षम होते हैं.
Arming them with a vital capability. Understanding enemy communications in its native language is, after all, an essential key for mission success. So if next time the PLA gets up close, the ITBP is ready to pay it back in its own coin. With Jitendra Bahadur Singh in Mussoorie, Bureau Report, India Today.
The writing is on the wall. China must withdraw and restore status quo ante at the line of actual control. We'll track that story very closely. That is all I have time for on India First this evening. Many thanks for watching.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.